Schoolgirl Emma notices a guy she likes with another girl, and her friend Gracie advises her to get to know Evan better. But the girl does not dare to make the first move, especially since it is time to go to biology class. But then Emma receives a message from her sister Stacey and runs to her. She introduces her to her new boyfriend, CJ. And then Stacey notices her sister's look at Evan and calls the guy to her because they live in the neighborhood, and he can very well go home not on the school bus, but with them. The sister's father teaches natural science at the same school, so he knows everyone and does not mind taking the guy with him. On the way, the girl's mother calls them and promises to come in a couple of days. Their family's just moving to this town, and she needed to finish some things. Soon they reach their street and go home. During dinner, an awkward conversation about the parents' relationship arises. Emma doesn't quite understand. After dinner, Emma contacts Gracie, who tells her that her mother got sick after a man coughed on her in the elevator. Then a stone wrapped in paper with a funny note flies into the girl's window, and looking outside, she sees Evan and goes down to him. After talking, the girl unexpectedly kisses the guy on the cheek, which embarrasses him. Returning home, Emma sees her father in front of the TV, where a program about viruses is just on. She asks questions about her mother, and he apologizes for being fired. And the doctor of sciences now has to teach school children, but promises that everything will be fine. The next day, during biology class, the father talks about parasites living in people's bodies. The worst thing is when they affect people's behavior, taking control of the entire body. At that moment, Gracie feels bad and leaves the classroom. Emma follows and can't find her for a long time, but suddenly she sees the girl lying on the floor and hurries to her. The guy, seeing that Gracie is not breathing, sends Emma for a doctor, and he tries to provide first aid. And then the girl suddenly opens her eyes and coughs right in the schoolboy's face. Gracie is taken to the clinic, and Emma is examined by the school doctor. The girl answers questions, remembering that her friend's mother recently returned from another city, and Gracie herself was constantly eating and complaining of a sore throat. Having found nothing, the girl is released, and the father sends the girls home with a neighbor, since he needs to meet his wife at the airport. Later, Emma tries to contact Gracie, but she does not answer her calls. Emma goes up to her room and freezes by the window, looking at the roe deer that has come to town. And suddenly there is a terrible roar, and a helicopter carrying a medical container flies right over the house. At this time, the father calls and says that he is not allowed to return home because the government has ordered a quarantine throughout the city. All the roads are blocked, and their mother is still at the airport, and he calls from a small store where many city residents have also gathered. The father asks them not to go anywhere. The girls examine the kitchen and come to the conclusion that they have practically no food. Nevertheless, they manage to cook dinner, eating which they watch the president's speech, who explains that the disease is transmitted by airborne droplets. At night, the girls hear some sounds at the door, and going down, look out the mail slot. Someone hits the door hard and everything goes quiet. Emma is scared. She is sure that there is someone outside. Stacey opens the door, but there is no one there. Suddenly, the doors swing open and CJ rushes in, scaring the girls. He laughs happily, and Emma reminds them of her father's words that they should not meet with anyone, but her sister does not hear her. Emma goes into the room and again tries to contact Gracie, but on her page there is only a message from the girl's parents that she is fine. In the comments, there is a post by an unknown man who says that the government is lying and the disease is serious. In the morning, the girl wakes up to the noise of engines. The Center for Disease Control delivers boxes of ready-made food, medicine, a flare gun, and masks to homes. In the appeal, doctors ask to report cases of illness, which only causes laughter among the teenagers. Later, Stacey is going to a party and tricks Emma into following her. Emma meets Evan and they go dancing. Tired of the loud music, the couple retire to the bathroom, where they have a frank conversation. Ivan confesses his sympathies to the girl when Stacey's scream is heard from behind the wall. Emma and Evan try to quell the scandal when the guy who helps resuscitate Gracie appears. He behaves strangely and looks sick, and then begins to attack the partygoers. The girls try to hide, but the sick man makes strange sounds, finds them and coughs on Stacey. He tries to attack Emma, but Evan appears and stuns the infected. The girls return home. Later, Emma watches the next video of the fighter for justice, who says that the virus is spreading across the planet. Warnings come to their gadgets, and Emma begins to worry. In the morning, doctors knock on their house, checking everyone left in the city, where empty houses appear because the infected disappear somewhere. Such dwellings are marked with a special sign. On this day, the father miraculously manages to get through to the sisters. He asks them to close the doors and not talk to anyone, and reminds them about his gun. But the conversation is cut short, and the TV shows news about the destruction of the houses of the infected, since a state of emergency has been declared in the country. The sisters are looking for their father's gun. Emma suddenly finds her mother's wedding ring, and again wonders about her parents' relationship. But Stacey calms her sister down, especially since they finally find a weapon. At night, they watch their closest neighbor, Mr. Toomey, shoot a flare gun, after which the military arrives at their house, pulls out and takes away his infected wife, and then the man himself. The sisters get into a car and drive to the exit from the city, but they are stopped by a checkpoint, and the military does not let them through. Then a car rushes by and is simply shot at, which makes the girls turn back. That same night, Stacey discovers that a growth is forming on her neck. She stabs him with a heated needle and almost loses consciousness from the pain. Emma notices that her sister's appetite has increased, but she admits that their parents are in trouble because Stacey caught their father with a student and told their mother everything. They decide not to tell Emmy anything. This throws her off balance and she forgets about her sister's strange behavior. Stacey coughs, but then there is a knock on the door. Evan begs to let him in. Immediately after him, the guy's infected stepfather starts knocking on the house. The young people put on masks and Stacey prepares a gun. The infected breaks the window and rushes inside. He also makes strange sounds, but since he has poor eyesight, he ends up practically face to face with Emma and does not see her. Stacey destroys the infected, but suddenly she herself falls and a red spot appears on her mask. Emma and Evan lock Stacey in the bathroom to hide her from the military. The girl remembers the signs and writes the same on her gate. Stacey is beating in the bathroom, begging for food. In a moment of clarity, she asks Emma to leave, but she remembers their childhood, in which her sister always protected her and refuses to leave the house. She remembers the lessons, her father's knowledge, and, sitting on the roof, develops a plan to remove the parasite from Stacey's neck. Evan supports her. Meanwhile, CJ comes to their house, who, along with several survivors, is going to leave the town since the military has left. He hears Stacey's screams from the bathroom and goes there. The girl says that her sister locked her in. He tries to open the door to let the girl out, and she grabs his hand and drags him into the crack. Emma and Evan hear his screams, run downstairs and see the remains of the guy, and Stacey, who is crying, assuring that the parasite made her do it. Emma understands that something needs to be done. She adds sleeping pills to her sister's food. Stacey eats, thanks, and soon passes out, and the guys go inside. The girl begins the operation to extract the parasite. Suddenly, Stacey wakes up and pulls out the parasites herself. The next day, the local radio announces that the government has ordered the immediate evacuation of citizens outside the quarantine zone. But Stacey is very weak and will hardly be able to walk. The nurse checks her neck, the wound has almost healed, and the girl begins to eat food in normal quantities. At this time, the guy intercepts the military talking about the upcoming cleanup of the town. He understands that something terrible will soon follow and hurries to Emmy, and the girl goes into the kitchen and sees Stacey with some tentacles crawling out of her. The girl wakes up, but he calls her Evan, who discovered that Stacey left the house, taking all the remaining food. They rush in pursuit and enter the house where the girl disappeared. The couple looks around with a flashlight and finds a large group of infected people. They rush at them, the couple runs upstairs, and in one of the bedrooms they find Stacey. Evan bashes the door, and his sister says that she can hear the infected's conversations as the parasite begins to take complete control of her. She begs Emma to destroy her, but she does not agree to do so. Stacey's eyes turn black. She growls and prepares to rush at her sister, and then Emma shoots her. She and the guy escape through the window just as the military begins to bomb the town. The couple manages to escape by jumping into the pool. Later, they come to the store from which their father last called and find a letter where he writes his location and asks to find him. The couple finds a working car where the girl thanks Evan for helping her. He promises to always be there, and the two of them go to Washington.